It's the day before the midsummer solstice, so the second darkest and shortest day of the year, but also one of my favourite times of year, funnily enough, to come out and pick salad. There's something about being able to pick it in the middle of winter which is particularly satisfying. And here I've got a range of different salad leaves, mostly that I sowed in September, some a little bit earlier in the year, and most of them will survive quite cold weather. One of the things I find about my winter growing is it's a little bit hit or miss. I sow lots of things, and some things do really well in the year and other things get like wiped out. So for example, down there was some purple auroch that did really well until like November time, and then we had some really cold frost and it was just completely killed. So it's a bit hit and miss, but one of the really good things about it is it actually, winter growing is not that much work. I just sow the seeds in September and pretty much leave them to their own devices. I sow them quite thickly in the containers and then come and thin them out later on. But there's not a lot of watering to do, although it's been very dry recently, and I'm going to be doing some later on. So you do have to keep an eye on the watering, but it's not a daily job. There's also far fewer slugs. Again, there are a few, but there's far fewer. So in general, you can just leave them to get on with it and then come out and pick them. And one of the great benefits of it is that things are growing very slowly now, but a lot of them will survive into February, early March time, and as the days start getting longer, they'll put on really good growth, and it's really nice having those fresh greens in the early spring. So let me show you now some of the ones which I'm currently growing and that I find the most reliable. So this one here is Rocket Irregular, and I grow this every year, and it's almost, it almost never fails me really. It's been under thick, heavy snow, and it looks a bit sad for a bit, but it nearly always comes back. And this is one which will put on good growth in the spring. Next to it here, we have some mixed mustards. So there's some Mizuna here and Mabuna, and some of them have quite pretty leaf shapes as well. It's not quite as hardy as the Rocket, but it's pretty good. And here we have various chicories. They're looking a bit sad now. I think one of the things about the winter is, as well as the cold, is the wind, and we do get winds howling down here, and because this is quite tall, for example, it got really bashed by the wind and the cold wind, and some of the leaves didn't really like that. But it's done pretty well, and it's just a really nice variation, and there's some nice I picked them all now, but there were some nice purple leaved ones as well. So chicory and endive is something I'm definitely going to grow more of. Down here we have some Chinese cabbages. These were a bit late starting, but they seem to have established, and I'm hoping they'll put on really good growth when the spring comes. What you might notice here is that there's a bit of a gap over here, and they're a bit clumped over here. So what I might do quite soon is actually move one of these into the space there to give them all a bit more space to grow. And then here we have lamb's lettuce, and this is like super hardy. It's amazing because it looks so fragile, and yet it seems to be able to withstand the coldest weather. So this is a really good one. If you live in a sort of cooler spot, this is a really good one to try to see how it does, because it is one of the ones which is most likely to survive. And next door here we have some coriander. I was always surprised when I started growing how hardy coriander is, and it's nowhere near as hardy as this lamb's lettuce or mache or the Rocket, but it will survive. We've had some really hard frosts, and it has survived. And again, if it comes through winter, which it doesn't always, but it often does, it puts on really good growth when the spring comes. What else can I show you? So this is an interesting one. This is three-cornered leeks. And the thing about these is they're really easy to grow, and they basically die back over the summer, but they come up in winter now, which is really nice. They taste a bit like chives, and they also have pretty white flowers, a bit like wild garlic, if you know wild garlic. The only thing about it is that it's very invasive, so it's fine growing it in containers somewhere like here where the chances of it spreading, there isn't really anywhere for it to spread here. But if you live like in the country near a wood or something like that, probably best don't plant it in your garden basically, but in containers. It is a great winter one to have because it's just so easy. It just comes back every year, and it's really good to eat. Another winter crop which will keep going most of the year are pea shoots. And what I often do with these is sow them inside in the warmth and then bring them out once they've germinated. During a warmer spell I bring them outside, and they seem, once they're outside and they've got to this side, they seem to be able to cope with some pretty cold weather. So that's a really nice one to go and have your add to your salads. And one tip really about winter growing like this is that you can pick them all through the winter, but you can't pick them too hard. You don't want to pick too much because they're growing so slowly. So what I do is I often buy a couple of shop lettuces each week, and then I come outside here and I pick a few pea shoots, pick a few rocket leaves, maybe a bit of some of this three-cornered leek, which had a nice onion flavour, a few different leaves basically, and I mix them with some lettuce leaves and maybe a bit of avocado, maybe a bit of onion, and just makes a really delicious salad, and one which is much tastier than anything you can buy straight from the shops. And around here in this pot, this is actually some mint that I grew earlier in the year. I bought a packet of supermarket mint, and it had a really good flavour, so I thought I'd just try it as a cutting. So I started it as a cutting and then planted it out here, and it's done really well, and amazingly it's actually survived all the frosts so far. So I'm picking a few mint leaves to add into the winter salad, and that again is just really nice to have that sort of fresh flavour of mint at this time of year. So these are the leaves. I could pick other things. There's some landcress up there. There's still a few spring onions there. There's some celery leaf over there, some parsley and chervil and chard and kale. So I'll pick those another day. So we have a nice diversity of things ready to pick at this time of year. This is what I've picked today. This is sort of typical really of this time of year, and I won't pick this every day, but probably like 2 or 3 times a week try and pop out here. So anyway, it's really nice, I think, having a few crops in your pots over winter. If nothing else, it's nicer having some greenery there rather than just bare soil. And as I say, in some ways, you've got to remember to sow the seeds. But I'm quite ad hoc about it. I just sort of throw them in really, and let them get on with it. And as I say, some things work well and some things work less well. But overall, it feels really worthwhile to have them growing in your garden at this time of year.